Hello everyone. Here we come with important aspect of SQL and most excited aspects of SQL training. We have just got into the SQL Workbench window. So this is how a typical SQL Workbench look like. We are into different boxes. If you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes we can see. I'll start explaining one on one as and when the requirement comes for each of the boxes. Now, if I tell you, this is the most important box in the middle, which is called as the editor space, where you are actually going to write your SQL queries. So this is one box, the navigator window that we generally call them as. Here we have administration tab and schemas tab. Administration tab deals with managing the servers, connecting to the servers, connecting to the client databases, exporting data, importing data, shutting down the servers, or switching on this, starting up the servers. All of that we do over here. It is a most typical administrative job they'll be doing here. Schemas represent what is there in the current databases that you, what are the various databases that you have with the SQL workbench at the moment. Now you can see here there are three different databases, World with the name World, Sys and Sakila. These are the databases which are installed by default when you install a MySQL Workbench onto your personal computer. So this we don't touch at the moment. Sakila is a database which is given to the user if they wanted to learn, and during the learning phase, if you would like to practice on the databases, they can use Sakila. But at this moment, I do not want to get into Sakila. We have a lot of time to perform more advanced queries by using the database called Sakila. At the moment, we are going to create a student management system wherein we'll try to create a database. We'll also try to create some tables into that particular database. So now let's say there are another windows called SQL additions, and below you have output box. Here we have information box, which also has some role to play and which you will try to understand over a period of time. If at all you feel many of these you don't want it, you can hide them. You can see three different boxes out here which enable and disable these boxes. Say for example, I click onto this corner box, my SQL additions command box will go off. Similarly, if I click on these, my output box will go off, and if I click on this, my navigator box and all will go off. So I'll be left with only with my the workbench editor where I actually write my queries. But it's very important that you have these two. The third one, the importance of the third one, we will try to understand later. At the moment, I'm disabling that. So I need this too. I need this workbench major space, which is queries box. I need this output box because this is where you'll try to see whether the query that you have executed is successful or not successful. You'll get to know from this output button, and any output that gets generated out of your queries will be visible here. So when you're writing some query, it is very important to see what is the output, and that output will be seen here. And then this thing, you'll get to understand the updates with respect to the new databases that you create. Under each databases, what kind of tables are there, and under each table what kind of fields are being created by the user. All of that you can know from this particular schemas tab under navigator box. Now just quickly to make you understand what does a database include inside, the moment there is a arrow here, it's a tree like structure which will give you an understanding what includes into that. You just go click onto the arrow, you see there are four things under each of the database. Any database that is created, that will automatically create the structure for tables, views, stored procedures and functions. These four are automatically created the moment you create any of the database. Now further, if I'm so much interested into creating tables, just go click on this and see under Sakila database there are these many tables: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 tables we have under database name by name Sakila. Now if at all I would like to understand what fields or what columns we have under the table called actor, click on this. You see, again under each table you have got four activities, columns, four objects that are columns, indexes, foreign keys and triggers. Now go click on columns tab. You see these are your column headers, which in general we call them as fields in a table with respect to SQL window is concerned. So this is how you can able to see the structure of the database. A database consists of how many tables. Under each table there are how many fields. All that you'll be able to see it right here. So now I'll just minimize these databases. Now we would try to start with creating our own databases, and we are trying to create a student management system. To start with, we'll be trying to create some database. We will try to add some tables to the database for today's video, and further we'll continue to use the same database for more adding of the content into the tables and so on. So now what is the database that we are going to create? We are going to actually create a student management system. So when you create this, usually this kind of a format of content, it's a heading that I would like to give, but SQL does not accept any headings in a common format. So this should be written in the form of a comment, and SQL should be told, yeah, this is not for the execution. This statement I've written because I would like to understand for myself at a later stage what I'm trying to do. So it is just for me to read. So if that is the case, SQL has to be told, yeah, this is not for execution. So how do you say that? There are three ways that you can do. One, you give double hyphen and give a space. You see that the entire text is converted into blue color, which means these two lines, two hyphen symbols, will instruct the SQL window that this is a comment. It is not for the execution. Go down and you proceed with your programs. The another way of doing it, instead of two hyphens, you can actually put a hash. Even a hash symbol does the same thing. So if you have a single line statement that you would like to make it like a comment, either use double hyphen or use a hash. Say for example, I have multiple lines for that matter which I would like to read it for myself. Under the student management system, the first thing I would like to do is I would like to create database. Now I also wanted this statement to be converted into a, the comment as a heading. You see here the into symbol, which means the line that I have written is as per the syntax of the SQL libraries. This is absolutely wrong. So until and unless I get a blue dot here, the query which I have written is not correct. So until I get a blue dot, I cannot go for my execution. Even if I execute or run that particular query, I'll not get my output. It will give you an error. So ideally, create database is not a complete query which I have written. This I have written just for my reference as a heading. So either I can put hash here and instruct the computer this is not the line to be executed, don't worry. Or if it is a double line, you don't want a hash to be put everywhere, what you can actually do, put a slash and asterisk, and then at the end put a asterisk and close the slash. This will give an instruction to the computer. These two lines are comment lines, not for the execution, right? So easy way is always to put a slash wherever you want, you put a hash wherever you want, and just make it simple. Now, so how do I create a database? So I would just say create. So SQL is not a case sensitive program. You can even write them into small letters also. So I have put create in an uppercase. Even if I put create in a smaller case, it would take. But it is a regular nomenclature that we always put SQL commands, the important commands in SQL we write in uppercase. So create. So if you see the red symbol into here, it's because my query is not complete as per the format syntax of SQL. Until and unless my query is complete and it is in a good format, I will see this red colored into mark. So create. So what I'm creating actually, I'm creating a database and I should be able to give the name to the database. Please note all these commands has to be in capital. It's not by rule, it's because of a nomenclature that the programmers use. So create database and the name that you give to the file, to the database, to the table, all of them should be in small letters. So I would say student uh, management. I will just give the name of the database as student management and click semicolon. Semicolon is very important because the moment I mention I'll just increase the size here. The moment I mention semicolon, it's an instruction to the computer that this query is complete and my statement ends. Now you see here the blue colored dot which says this query is written in a right syntax. So there is no error in the syntax at the moment. Now what I'll do, I'll have to select this query, go and click on run here. This is my execute button, both of these. I can click on them and you see here you have a green color tick mark which means my query is successfully executed. Now you would like to see if it is successfully executed, what it should have done. It should have created a database. Now you come see here in the schemas whether you see a database by name student management or not. At the moment it is not visible because this navigator box has to be refreshed. So you have a refresh button here, go and click. The moment you click on this refresh button, you see that the table, the database with the name student management has been created. Now just go click under the arrow. As I told you, by default, the moment I create any of the database, these four objects will automatically be created by name: tables, views, stored procedures, and functions. Now here you don't see any kind of arrow before tables, views, procedures, and functions because there is nothing added as of now. It is just a database that is created, and all of these tables, no tables, views, there are no views, procedures, there are no procedures created, and there are no functions created. So until I create another table, I don't see any kind of arrow that will be activated here. So the first step of creating a database is now complete. Similar way, what I'll do, I'll go and copy it here and try to create a table. Now let's say I would like to create a table. Watch carefully, this is very important for you to understand. So till now I've created a database. Now I'm creating a table. So again the same function, create table. Now I have to give a table name. The table name I'll give you would be students. Now please remember, just by giving a semicolon, as per the syntax it is showing you blue. It is absolutely right. But let's see whether it will work when I run this. What happened when I run this? The program says it is a wrong thing because you have not, no database has been selected. Why? Now I am telling the computer to create a table by name students, but in this particular SQL Workbench, if you see in the schemas tab, if you see there are 4 databases exist in my window, in my workbench. So but the computer has not been informed where should this computer save this table. It doesn't know whether the table students has to be created under Sakila, under student management, under sys, or under world, in which database this table has to be saved. So that instruction has not been given so far, which is why this problem. So what I'll have to do, I'll have to instruct the computer beforehand, use database student underscore management, student management. So I'll have to run this program. ST data, so is a spelling mistake. You see there is a red error, which means there is a spelling mistake of my command. So I have to mention A. Is it still right? Why it is showing red? Let's see. I might have to remove the database. Is it working now? Yes. So when I say use, I need not mention the name of the database because use is a command which is applicable only for the database. So we don't need to specially mention a database name to the command database there. So I'll directly mention use student management. You see what will happen when I run this program. It is now highlighted. It is given green tick that the query is properly executed and there is no error. But the moment this program is executed, this query is executed, you see that student management database is highlighted in bold color, which means Now whatever the commands that you're going to execute moving forward will be saved in student management database. Now if I run this program, though it is syntax wise right, I've selected, I'll click on this and see what will happen. Now you see here this query is showing wrong. Why is it wrong? Can you please guess? Apply your mind and try to understand what's the problem. Read the error. A table must have at least one visible column. Yes, you are trying to create a table. You are instructing the computer to create a table. But the query here, a table should come with some columns, at least one column minimum. So here in this particular table, you have not created any column, which is why the computer doesn't understand what it should do in the table. Now the table with the student's name will be created, but what should be the columns? So at the moment my statement is not completed, so I'll do open parenthesis. Then what I'll type here, I can come down, okay, I will go student, okay, student underscore ID. Now here a student ID is an identity number which should be in the form of numbers, so I would define a data type which we have learned already. Any number type with field should be given an integer type data type, and then this should be a primary key. You know why it is a primary key? We have already discussed this. Primary key because this is going to be a reference for multiple tables. If I have to recall some data from another tables to this table, the only reference I have, the unique ID I have is student ID. So I've defined it as a primary key, comma. Then the next column that I would like to give is student underscore name. This should be either character or varchar. I would say jump 50 size I'll give you, which means the student name should be mentioned in less than 50 characters. So once the student name is defined, I can even now go ahead and define DOB student. Okay, student DOB is like date of birth. Here what should be the format of this, you know, right? Yes, it is date. It should be a date format. Then I wanted student gender, which should be, you can define your names as your choice. It's not necessary that everywhere I have to mention student underscore name, student underscore DOB, not required. The moment you have mentioned student ID, rest of the names can even just be like name. I need not mention student every time. I can mention DOB, like this also I can do. But now I have taken student underscore name, student underscore DOB, student underscore gender. Gender should be again character. Let's say I'll give 6 characters. This will define the size of that particular column to the computer. So yep, let me end this table here. I'll just close and I'll put a semicolon, and I would say to the computer, yeah, my query is complete. Now this is lengthy. This query is pretty lengthy. Now there will be some tables where I might have to add 10, 12 columns, 15 columns, 20 columns also. Now this line might get extended till a long time. So you need not be worried. What you can do after the brace is open, you can enter and you can just put all of these in a separate lines. So SQL accepts this, not an issue at all. So now I've entered my table, and at the end my closure box will be here. Now here I've made my mistake here. Yeah. So now you see that my queries is in a proper syntax, which is why it is showing me a blue tick. Now I've selected the entire query. I'll just go and run the program. So now you can see the table is created and there is a green tick. Now I just go and refresh. You see there is an arrow here. The moment you click on arrow, yeah, students table is created. Now if you want to see what kind of columns you have under current table, the moment you click here, the details of the object students is shown here. We have got 4 fields: student ID, student name, student DOB, student gender, and their data types is also mentioned. Wherever it is mentioned as PK, which means this variable is a primary key. And the same information you can get here also, just that you don't get a data type here. You just go and mention columns. It will show you all the fields that are created under this particular table. So in a similar way, you can even create one more table. Let's try to create one more table here. Create table. Now I'll create table for courses. Bracket open. Then I would like this. I'll put like this. Student ID. Again, I'll mention student ID space. So I'm trying to do a course, so I'll have to mention probably course ID. Course ID, integer data type, and this should also be a primary key. Comma, you have to put comma after every column that you define, and then I have to mention course underscore name. This is this time I'll make a varchar. I can even do character. So I'll course ID, I would not put more than 10 characters. The course name, I think course name can be lengthier. So let's say I would say 50 characters, or even I would put 100 characters. That's fine. Then after course name is defined, so I have to put comma here. I missed it, comma. Then I have after the course name, I can say course code, course underscore code, character, size 10, close. Then I would probably want to define credits, how many credits this course gets. So credit should be in terms of number, so I would be putting integer, enter, close the program, instruct the end by giving a semicolon. Now you see that as per the syntax, the query is absolutely fine, so it is showing in blue color. Select the entire query, go and run the program. Now it is a green tick, which means the program is executed properly. Now you just go refresh. You see that there is another table by name courses has been created. Under the courses, there are so and so columns. Click on the course, and you see there are columns under the course can be easily seen. This way, you can keep adding your tables in the database. In my further discussion of SQL, we will try to understand by creating even more tables by name, faculty table, enrollment table, and so on. And we'll also try to bring in relationship between each table, and we'll try to see where these primary keys are going to be useful as we bring relationship between multiple tables. I wish you'll be able to get through this understanding. Please do practice multiple times so that you'll be able to remember this easily. Thank you so much.